It took just 58 minutes for the tennis world to freeze, blink, and collectively ask the same question. Did that really just happen? Eala didn't simply beat Coco Gauff. She dismantled her. From the opening serve to the final forehand that kissed the baseline, this wasn't an upset built on chaos or luck. It was controlled, cold, and deliberate. The crowd erupted not because they expected drama, but because they were watching history rewrite itself in real time. Analysts, fans, even Gauff herself had walked into the arena assuming the script was already written. What they witnessed instead was a new author taking the pen. From the very first point, the energy felt different. Sharper. Colder. Electric. Eala wasn't just playing tennis. She was sending a message, one precise strike at a time. Before the eruption, there was silence. Not the respectful kind, but the uneasy quiet that hangs in the air before something breaks. Coco Gauff stood on one side of the net as she always had, confident, composed, the face of modern tennis. A Grand Slam champion. A crowd favorite. A symbol of the sport's future. On the other side stood Eala, calm and unreadable, underestimated by most of the arena and barely mentioned in pre-match predictions. She wasn't the headline. She wasn't the favorite. To many watching, she was just another name in the draw. But beneath that calm exterior was something fierce. Months of work built far away from the spotlight. Long training sessions under unforgiving heat. Late nights studying opponents while others slept. Moments of doubt she refused to let define her. Eala came from the Philippines, a country rich in passion but poor in tennis infrastructure compared to the traditional powerhouses. She grew up hearing the same quiet limitations repeated again and again. Too far from the main tours. Too few resources. Too small a stage. Players from there don't rise to the top. Those words never fueled anger in her. They fueled belief. Not belief that she would shock the world, but belief that she belonged on the same court as anyone else. And now, under the blinding lights, she stood across from the very embodiment of everything she had been told she couldn't become. The betting lines told one story. The commentators told another. A routine win. A solid test for Gauff. Valuable experience for Eala. But when Alex stepped to the baseline for warm-up, there was something unmistakable in her eyes. Not nerves. Not excitement. Focus. Pure and absolute. In her corner, her coach leaned in and whispered words only she could hear. Forget who she is. Remember who you are. It wasn't advice. It was ignition. The crowd murmured, waiting for Gauff's trademark energy to ignite the match. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled. Then Eala struck her first serve, clean and fast, slicing the edge of the box. The sound cracked through the arena like thunder. Even Gauff paused for half a second longer than usual. That opening game told a story no one was ready to believe. Eala wasn't reacting to Gauff's rhythm. She was dictating it. Every rally felt intentional. Every movement measured. She took the ball early, redirected pace with ease, and forced Gauff to play one step faster than she wanted. The crowd, used to cheering Gauff's dominance, began to sense something unfamiliar creeping in. Uncertainty. There was no celebration from Eala after winning points. No fist pumps. No glances to her box. Just a quiet reset and back to position. Seasoned fans recognized that look immediately. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't fear. It was control. And inside that control lived every overlooked moment of her career, every tournament where she was just another early round name. As the first set unfolded, belief in a Gauff comeback still floated through the stands. It always did. Resilience was part of her legend. But with every passing game, a whisper grew louder. Who is this girl? When Eala broke serve for the first time, the gasp from the crowd wasn't polite. It was shocked. Her winners weren't flashy. They were brutal in their simplicity. Deep returns. Tight angles. No wasted motion. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She executed. Coco Gauff, known for her fire and fight, suddenly looked human. And in that moment, the balance of women's tennis felt like it tilted, if only slightly. Then came the rally that changed everything. 41 shots. A test of lungs, legs, and belief. Gauff fired with her trademark power, trying to impose herself, trying to remind the court who she was. Eala absorbed it all. Backhand to backhand. Forehand to forehand. Cross-court exchanges that drew the crowd out of their seats. With each shot, the tension climbed. Then Eala stepped inside the baseline, anticipated the angle, and ripped a forehand down the line so clean it painted the edge. The umpire's call cut through the noise. Game. Eala. Gauff froze. The crowd exploded. That point didn't just win a game. It cracked the match open. For the first time, uncertainty flashed across Gauff's face. She glanced toward her box, searching for reassurance. Her coach clapped, but his expression betrayed the moment. This wasn't part of the plan. Eala, meanwhile, walked calmly to her chair, took a sip of water, and stared straight ahead. Commentators scrambled for explanations. Maybe Gauff is adjusting. Eala is playing out of her mind. What they didn't see yet was the truth. This wasn't a hot streak. It was preparation meeting opportunity. Eala had studied Gauff relentlessly. She knew where the pressure lived. She didn't chase winners recklessly. She waited. She forced extra shots. She tightened angles until space disappeared. The crowd began to shift, murmurs growing louder with every Eala winner. At 4-1, frustration finally spilled over. Gauff missed a routine backhand and slammed the ball toward the net post. A warning from the umpire silenced the arena. Eala didn't react. She adjusted her wristband and walked to the baseline. That moment told the real story. This wasn't just skill anymore. It was psychology. The more Gauff tried to ignite herself, the colder Eala became. The remaining games of the set passed in a blur. Returns that landed deep and heavy. Movement that looked effortless. And when Eala broke again, phones came out across the stands. People weren't just watching anymore. They were documenting history. When the first set ended 6-1, the narrative flipped completely. Words like dominant and ruthless replaced cautious optimism in the commentary booth. Still, Eala didn't smile. She knew something important. The match wasn't over yet. The real test was coming next. By the start of the second set, the atmosphere inside the arena had completely transformed. What began as a Coco Gauff, friendly crowd had evolved into something restless, charged, and unpredictable. Every point carried disbelief. Every rally felt heavier than the last. Eala walked back onto the court with the same expression she'd worn since the first serve, calm, unreadable, locked in. She was up a set, but she played as if the scoreboard didn't exist. Control had replaced confidence, and control, when executed perfectly, becomes dangerous. This was the kind of dominance that doesn't scream. It whispers, and somehow the whisper is louder. Gauff tried to reset immediately. Slower movements. Deeper breaths. A longer pause between points. Champions do that. They reach into experience when momentum slips. For a brief moment, it worked. A solid serve. A clean forehand winner. The crowd roared, desperate for familiarity, desperate for the narrative to return to normal. Gauff raised her fist, feeding off the noise, urging the stands to stay with her. But Eala didn't blink. On the very next point, she served wide, pulled Gauff off the court, and finished with a forehand into the open space. 9 seconds. That was all it took to shut the door again. The gasp from the crowd said everything. What made the moment unsettling wasn't just the scoreline. It was the contrast. One player chasing rhythm, the other dictating time. Eala's footwork was precise, economical. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't hesitating. She was arriving exactly where the ball needed her to be. Analysts later would point to champions' tennis statistics to explain what was happening. Return depth. Rally tolerance. First strike efficiency. But statistics couldn't capture the emotional weight of what fans were seeing. This wasn't just tactical superiority. This was belief overpowering reputation. At 2-0, Gauff finally unleashed a roar after a rare extended rally win. She waved her arms, urging the crowd louder, almost demanding energy. The response was thunderous. For a heartbeat, it felt like the tide might turn. Tennis has always loved a comeback. But Eala answered with silence. No celebration. No reaction. Just another deep return, another forced error, another quiet walk back to the baseline. That silence did something to the arena. It shifted allegiance. A soft chant began from the upper stands. Eala. It was hesitant at first, unsure of itself, but it grew. Gauff noticed. You could see it in her shoulders. Social media exploded mid-match. Clips flooded timelines. Slow-motion forehands. Side-by-side reactions. Tweets questioning reality itself. Who is Eala? How is this happening? Champions tennis statistics began trending alongside her name as analysts tried to contextualize the destruction unfolding live. Numbers started circulating. Low unforced errors. High first serve percentage. Ruthless return games. But the most telling stat wasn't on any screen. It was Gauff's body language. Every missed opportunity tightened her expression. Every error lingered longer than usual. At 4-1, the frustration boiled over again. Gauff double-faulted. The crowd groaned. She tilted her head back, eyes closed, searching for composure. Across the net, Eala bounced the ball 3 times, same rhythm as always, and served an ace straight down the middle. The eruption was instant. Cameras cut to stunned faces in the crowd. In Eala's player box, no one celebrated. They stayed still, hands folded, eyes locked. They understood something the rest of the world was just beginning to grasp. This wasn't slipping away. It was already gone. Then came the final game. Gauff serving to stay in the match. The entire arena stood, shouting her name, begging for a miracle. Champions are built on moments like this. Moments where belief defies reality. The first serve came in strong. Eala returned it deep. The rally stretched. Gauff attacked. Eala defended, then countered. Error. Match point. Silence swallowed the stadium. The next serve landed safely in the box. Eala stepped in and ripped a forehand cross-court, the ball skimming the line. The umpire's call echoed. Game, set, match. Eala. For a fraction of a second, time stopped. Then the eruption came. The noise was overwhelming. Fans leapt from their seats, phones raised, voices breaking. Eala stood still, breathing heavily, staring at the scoreboard. 6-1, 6-1. 58 minutes. Coco Gauff walked to the net, extended her hand. Eala met it firmly. No smirk. No arrogance. Just respect. Cameras zoomed in, catching the smallest flicker in Gauff's expression. Frustration wrapped tightly in professionalism. As Eala turned toward the crowd, the chant grew louder, more unified. She raised her hand once, subtly, then walked off the court as if she'd done this before. Behind her, Gauff sat alone on the bench, towel over her head, absorbing the reality. For a player used to controlling rhythm and narrative, this wasn't just a loss. It was disbelief. Within minutes, clips of the match dominated every platform. TikTok edits. Highlight reels. Side-by-side comparisons. One caption went viral instantly. 58 minutes. No mercy. Fans split into camps. Some hailed Eala as the future, praising her precision and fearlessness. Others called the performance cold, too clinical, even disrespectful. Dominance, when unexpected, always makes people uncomfortable. In the press conference, Gauff forced a smile. She played lights out. I couldn't find my rhythm today. The words were polite. Her eyes told a different story. Processing. Searching. Athletes fear one thing more than defeat. Helplessness. Then came Eala. Calm, humble, slightly overwhelmed by the attention. I just tried to play my game. I respect Coco a lot. She's one of the best. I didn't expect this score. That humility only amplified the noise. Commentators dissected every word. Was she downplaying one of the most dominant wins of the season? Or was this maturity beyond her years? Backstage, whispers started immediately. Claims of a cold handshake. Rumors of tension. A short clip circulated of Gauff walking off quickly while Eala acknowledged the crowd. Headlines followed within hours. Sportsmanship or shade? Is a new rivalry born? Hashtags exploded. Team Eala. Team Gauff. Arguments filled comment sections. Analysts leaned on champions' tennis statistics again, debating whether this was a passing of the torch moment or simply an anomaly. But for fans watching live, it didn't feel random. It felt intentional. Back in Manila, the reaction was instant and emotional. Public courts filled. Kids wore headbands with AE scribbled in marker. News outlets called it the greatest Filipino tennis win of the modern era. Her childhood coach said something that echoed across broadcasts. She always believed she could beat the best. I just didn't think it would come this soon. The tennis world kept spinning, but one truth had already settled. This match wasn't just a result. It was a statement. And as the noise reached its peak, Eala did the unexpected. She trained the next day. Quietly. Focused. Unbothered. Because while the world debated meaning, she understood something simple. The match was over. The work was not. The noise didn't disappear overnight. It never does after a performance like that. 4 days, the tennis world stayed suspended in the echo of those 58 minutes. Memes slowed, headlines rotated, but the conversation refused to die. Because once the shock faded, a deeper truth began to surface. Eala's win wasn't an accident. It wasn't a lucky afternoon or a tired opponent. It was the visible result of something that had been forming quietly for a long time. Beneath the viral clips and stunned reactions lived a story of preparation, patience, and belief that numbers alone couldn't explain, even when champions' tennis statistics were pulled apart frame by frame. Behind closed doors, Eala's team had built the blueprint weeks before she ever stepped on court. They studied Coco Gauff relentlessly. Serve patterns. Return positioning. Footwork tendencies under pressure. Emotional shifts after missed chances. It wasn't about overpowering her. It was about absorbing the first strike and taking control of the second. Let Gauff swing freely early. Let the pace rise. Then, when the openings appeared, tighten the angles and drain the space. It was tactical intelligence disguised as calm. Analysts later praised the execution, pointing to champions' tennis statistics that showed extraordinary return depth and error control. But the real difference lived in Eala's mindset. For the first time in her young career, she didn't walk onto the court as the underdog hoping to survive. She walked on expecting to win. That shift is invisible to the eye but devastating in impact. When she spoke privately to her coach afterward, her words were simple. I didn't play to surprise anyone. I played to remind myself I belong here. That sentence spread across sports media because it captured the essence of what fans had witnessed. This wasn't rebellion. It was arrival. Coco Gauff, to her credit, didn't disappear after the loss. In the days that followed, she faced the questions head-on. Was it a wake-up call? Was the pressure heavier now? She answered with composure. Losses like that remind you there's always someone working just as hard, maybe harder. It's motivation. Her tone carried respect, not resentment. Insiders noticed something else too. She stayed on the practice court longer, asked for extra reps, reviewed footage late into the evening. Champions respond to shock not with excuses, but with work. Analysts began reframing the narrative. Some called it the beginning of a rivalry. Others labeled it a changing of the guard. For the first time, Eala's name no longer came with qualifiers. No rising star. No future potential. She had crossed that invisible line. Champions' tennis statistics no longer placed her as an outlier, but as a contender. Yet with every breakthrough comes a new weight. Expectation. Attention. Scrutiny. And through all of it, she remained centered. She didn't post long victory messages. She didn't address the debates. Instead, she shared a single line on social media. Thank you for believing. More work ahead. That restraint spoke louder than celebration ever could. Because the truth behind the 58-minute dismantling wasn't dominance alone. It was transformation. Eala had stepped out of possibility and into power. The question had changed from who is she to how far can she go. Weeks passed, and the match earned a name. The Manila Miracle. Sports historians replayed it endlessly. 58 minutes. 18 winners. 4 aces. Only 6 unforced errors. Champions' tennis statistics captured the efficiency, but not the electricity. They couldn't quantify the energy shift that rippled through the sport. Every young player watching from outside traditional tennis powerhouses felt something unlock. Proof that belief could cross oceans. Proof that greatness doesn't require permission. Back home, Eala became more than a winner. She became a symbol. Courts filled. Enrollment spiked. Kids practiced with a new intensity. She had walked onto that court as an underdog and walked off carrying something larger than herself. Coco Gauff became part of that story too, not as a fallen champion, but as the standard that had to be met. When asked weeks later about Eala, her response was calm and resolute. "That girl's special. We'll meet again, and next time I'll be ready." No bitterness. Only resolve. Two paths now clearly destined to cross again. The tennis world thrives on moments that divide time into before and after. Before this match, Eala was a prospect. After it, she was a presence. A new narrative had formed, one built not on noise, but on quiet purpose. At a small local event days later, a young fan asked her how she stayed so calm under pressure. Her answer was simple. "I've been underestimated my whole life. What's left to fear?" The line went viral again, not because it was loud, but because it was true. As seasons move forward, this match will continue to be referenced. Analysts will return to the champion's tennis statistics, debating trends and trajectories. Fans will argue legacy and rivalry. But beyond the debates, one truth remains untouched. On that night, greatness didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly, took control, and left everyone breathless. The 58-minute masterclass wasn't just about winning. It was about becoming. Some moments define careers. Others define eras. Whether this was the beginning of a rivalry or the opening chapter of a legacy is still unfolding. But one thing is certain. Eala didn't just defeat Coco Gauff. She changed how the world saw her, how the sport saw itself, and how belief itself could look when it finally stops asking for permission. And that is why fans still replay the match, not for the scoreline, but for what it represented. The birth of belief.